Hello, welcome to the Career Success Guide. My name is Matthew Wilhelm, president of the Stratford University Baltimore campus Enactus team.
And my name is Devani Ganatra, Career Services Manager with Stratford University.
Congratulations! You have made the choice to dedicate time today to engage in an interactive video in which we will guide you on the path toward career success.
This is Chapter 3, the resume.
Devani, when I submit my resume, what exactly are employers looking for? And how long are they actually going to look at my resume?
The average employer looks at a resume between 10 to 15 seconds. Think about it, that's 10 to 15 seconds. There's not a lot they can see in that short amount of time. They're looking for things that stand out that is relevant to their job. This is the time that they decide, are they going to keep it or are they going to toss it?
So what is a resume? And how does your resume pass the trash can test?
A resume is a highly personalized tool that is customized to sell your skills, knowledge, education, and experience to prospective employers. It is your personal ad. The intention of your resume is to get the interview, not secure the job. Ultimately, the resume writer, you, should project the best possible image in order to get the interview. Encourage the audience to think of the resume as a window or a brochure, not an exhaustive catalog. Remember, statistically, a recruiter spends 10 to 15 seconds each when faced with a pile of resumes. That's why readability and brevity are important.
So once I have a resume, can I just start sending it out?
A resume is highly personalized. One resume will not fit every job that you apply for. You need to personalize it to the employer's job description. Little tweaks of each resume to make it specific to the job you're applying for. The resume is a representation of you. If your resume is neat, you'll be represented as neat. If your resume is well organized, you'll be seen as well organized. If your resume is error-free, employers will see that you are detail-oriented. And if your resume has a professional appearance, then you'll be perceived to be careful and competent. There are three main types of resumes: chronological, functional, and a combination. Chronological presents your work and your education in a chronological order. It is ideal with people with no job gaps because it shows a steady job progression and for those who would like to obtain a similar position doing similar work. A functional resume highlights your relevant skills and accomplishments. It is used when you've had a variety of experiences that may not be related to the work you're looking for now. It focuses on the important experience and ignores the irrelevant experience. A combination balances the functional and chronological resume styles. It highlights your skills in the beginning and is followed in a chronological list of relevant experience and education.
This is a sample of a chronological resume. As you can see, it highlights the specific skills and accomplishments that pertain to a specific job. This is a sample of a functional resume. Unlike a chronological resume, this type of resume highlights the skills and accomplishments, but they do not pertain to a specific job.
Let's go back to the basics. What is in a resume? The sections of a resume. The different sections are the header, the objective or personal profile, the summary of qualifications, the skills and attributes, the employer and or volunteer experience, and the education and or certificates. So let's start with the header. In the header, you want to include your name, your address, your phone number, and your email address. But remember, the number one way your resume is going to be tossed is if you do not have a professional email address. You want to make sure that email address is some version of your name, and you can also create a free email address if you need one through Yahoo or Gmail. Let's look at some of these sample headers. In the first one, you see two separate addresses. This is great for people who are relocating to showcase to the employer you are moving to the city and state that you are applying for. One thing we definitely do not want to include in a header is personal information, such as your date of birth, your nationality, your gender, or your marital status. You also want to only try to include one phone number and one email address. Pick the best one that works for you. Ideally, what you want is something simple. Just one address, one phone number, one email address. And you're also not necessarily listing phone or email. Every word on that resume counts, so don't waste your space, don't waste those words. We know what a phone number is and we know what an email address is. You don't need to state it. Also, if you see on all three examples, what each of them is doing great is their name. It's larger, it's bold, it's centered. We want to make sure that that stands out. It's your advertisement, it's your brochure, it's your brand. Let's make sure they know who it is and it's easy to find. The next section you'll see on the resume is an objective or a personal profile. Objective and personal statements are a key to a targeted resume. It will quickly reveal why you're giving your resume to an employer. It suggests what you want to gain from this employment, what you have to offer to the company. Each time you hand in your resume, it should be targeted and changed to the specific job and the specific company. And it demonstrates to the employer that you're interested in working for them. If you're a career changer or with limited work experience, my recommendation is to have an objective or a personal profile. If you have a lot of work experience in the industry you're applying for, you necessarily don't need that objective. Think about what's right for the resume and what's right for you. Remember, you'll also have that cover letter with the resume to showcase this. Matt, what are some examples of some good and bad objectives?
The first one, my goal is to be a meteorologist, but since I possess no training in meteorology, I suppose I should try stock brokerage. We give this a thumbs down because this can be misleading and it doesn't really give the employer a good sense of what you're looking for. The next one is, current nursing school student with 4 years of experience in a healthcare environment, reliable, caring, and motivated professional that would like to use her comprehensive healthcare training, great communication skills, and self-directed prioritization. We give this a thumbs up because this gives the employer a clear direction of what industry that you're in and the training and skills that you have to be successful in their company.
Employment experience. This is usually the meat of the resume. This section is very important as it's where employers will look to try to correlate past experience with what they're looking for. If they have to reach too much, they won't bite. Companies look for leaders, team players, challenge seekers, enthusiasts, and self-starters. Assure us that you can work with others. Within the employment experience, you want to include for each company the job title, the name of the company, the dates of employment, usually the month and year will suffice, and the location of the company, which can also be optional. Within here, you want to list all that you've done within that job, within reason. Include accomplishments and not just responsibilities. Use action phrases to highlight the responsibilities you have performed, such as things you've managed, you've coordinated, you've initiated, you've created. You want to be specific as well to these specific actions that you're speaking of. Within the job description, there's usually two types of skills, hard skills and soft skills. Hard skills can be taught or certified in. For example, typing, handling cash, first stage, superhost, and soft skills are personal attributes, like you're punctual, you're energetic, you're flexible, you're a team player. You don't want to just state your soft skills. You want to make sure your soft skills are descriptive and they're a statement. For example, you implemented a new employee training program that dramatically increased productivity and morale. A hard skill accomplishment statement is manage a team of 6 sales associates and increase store sales by 25% for the month of December. This usually includes numbers, percentages, and facts.
What if I don't have any experience in the industry that I'm applying for?
That's a great question. That's actually called transferable skills. In every job, you're going to have skills that transfer from one industry to another. For example, if you're transitioning into the marketing industry and you're an admin, customer service, you're greeting people. In marketing, you're obviously going to be working with clients. That's client relationship skills. That's a transferable skill. If you're transitioning in from a culinary industry to maybe a healthcare industry, in culinary, you had to have done serve safe sanitation. So that sanitation skills and that safety. That's exactly what you're going to need to do in the healthcare industry as well. So you want to look and focus on those transferable skills and include that in your resume.
Grab a piece of paper or think about this next activity analytically. What are some examples of your soft skills and what are some examples of your hard skills?
Now that you have examples of your skills, let's take a look at how you can make these accomplishment statements from an okay statement to the best statement. An okay statement is trained new employees. Let's make it a little bit better. A good example is trained new employees resulting in increased customer satisfaction. Let's take it a notch better. How about trained more than 15 new employees over a 6-month period resulting in increased customer satisfaction? See how we're getting a little bit more specific as we go? And let's see one of the best examples. Okay. Increase reported customer satisfaction rate by 20% by providing effective training for more than 15 new employees in a 6-month period. Another tactic you'll want to use when writing your work experience is that you'll want to craft statements that reflect your knowledge, skills, tasks, and accomplishments for each position you've held. One way to do this is the PAR or A plus B equals R structure. PAR stands for problem, action, result, and A plus B equals R stands for action plus benefit equals result. These are both sometimes called accomplishment statements, those statements that we reviewed and gave examples of. These statements will demonstrate your ability or qualifications that validate your experience and ability in solving particular problems or addressing challenges. These statements ultimately help the hiring manager see how your contributions can benefit their organization. Another section that you may have is a skills section on your resume. A skills section should include specific and accurate words that match the skills sought out by the potential employer. You should only list the skills that you can actually perform. Avoid listing every skill you have, especially if the skill is not relevant to the targeted employer or position. You can break up the skills section with subheadings to organize the type of skills and make it easier for the potential employer to read. Remember that 10 to 15 second rule that we talked about as employers are taking a look at your resume. Within this section, you also want to try to focus more on the hard skills than you do on the soft skills. Also, depending on how you format it, the skills section can be placed right under the summary/objective section. Volunteer experience. This is a great section you can utilize if you don't have a lot of experience in the industry or not a lot of work experience. You can showcase different set of skills such as leadership skills, community team building skills. Within this section, be sure to include only relevant experience once again. Don't just list your hobbies. Education is the formal degree or certificate you have received, most likely from an accredited post-secondary or secondary institution. You do not have to include your high school diploma if you're in college or have a college degree. Leave that off your resume. You can also include certificates or workshops that you have attended or received. If you have a few different degrees or certificates to note, list the most important one at the top. You only have to list the education and training that is relevant to the position you're applying for. Throughout this presentation, you keep hearing the word relevance. You want to make sure everything that you're including on your resume is relevant to the job you're applying for. If you have several degrees and relevant training, that you can separate them into two different headings such as formal education, certificates in training, or professional development. Now you have all the elements of a resume, but we're not done yet. Let's look at some of these resume essentials. Use spell check. That is going to be my number one tip. Triple check for those typos. Have other people look at it. Also, don't use any font that's smaller than 10. What's the point of giving someone a resume that they can't even read? Try limiting your resume to 1 page. They're not going to get through 2, 3, 4 pages within 10 to 15 seconds that they're looking at that resume. Use a readable and clear font. Avoid those flashy fonts.
Here's a list of the top 10 resume pet peeves. done by a survey on Monster.com. Notice number 1, as Devani had mentioned earlier, spelling errors, typos, and poor grammar. Also notice number 4, inaccurate or missing contact information. If an employer sees a great resume and he doesn't have anyone to contact, you're also going to end up tossing the trash can. Also notice number 9, unqualified candidates. I believe this is one that will also get you end up tossing to the trash can. You can also be overqualified, and this goes back to relevance. To the employer, you need to be seen as relevant.
Here are some additional do nots. Do not use pronouns such as I, me, my, etc. Do not include references. That should be a separate page. Do not clutter your resume with non-essential information. Goes back to relevance. Do not make any misrepresentations. You don't want to get to an interview and the employer realizes you've lied on your resume. Do not include personal information. Social security number, age, sex, height, so on. So do you have to spend hours recreating a resume for every position? No. You should have a master resume. A master resume is where you have all of your information on one resume, where it could be 2 to 3 pages, and for each job, you edit that, you cut out what you don't need, and use that information to apply for the job you're looking for. So even if you don't edit your resume regularly, you should try to keep a good updated records of what you've been doing. You may want to keep your information organized and keep track of the important information such as your accomplishments, your license, degrees, awards, and certificates, conferences you've attended or any additional education you've had, high quality skills, which can include your